We are not interested in regime change. Let us own this government. Those who want to protest can protest, but let us be there eating. Am I right? I must thank Niger Delta.
How out of touch can Godswill Akpabio be? All that he knows is eat, take, and eat again like a glutton with nothing to show for it. If this doesn't push many Nigerians to troop out en masse to protest, nothing else will. They think it's by bribing Nigerians that they can silence them. The other time, Akpabio said that the protest was being sponsored by people who lost election, that they want to come into power through the back door. Let's even assume that it is true. Is there anything wrong in sponsoring a protest? Is it illegal for the opposition to sponsor protest? The job of the opposition is to hold the people in power accountable, to look for loopholes and their failures where they will capitalize on, to tell Nigerian people that they are doing it wrong, that they should elect them to do it correctly. That's the job of the opposition in a democracy. We are not in a communist regime where there is no opposition. So all this talk about the opposition is sponsoring this or sponsoring that, trying to make it look as if it is illegal for the opposition to sponsor anything that is against the government, it is wrong. Nigerians are not deceived. Anybody, whether you are in government, you are not in government, you belong to any party or not, all that is happening, high cost of living is affecting everyone. Everyone goes to the same market to shop for groceries. Akpabio is trying to make it sound as if there are people that will be protesting and will be here eating, will be in government doing this and that. No, it is not sustainable. The money they are dishing out today, bribing people with billions of naira, is not sustainable. And to think that most of this money was borrowed, you can understand the problem we are in. Spend this money, invest it in things that will turn around the economy, in sectors that will create employment. But no, they prefer to lavish it, throw it at people so as to silence them and think that they have done something good. No, it is all wrong. They need to start investing the money where it counts. And the people they are giving this money, they should take it because it is their money. Just like the women that were invited to the rally, the no protest rally, the protest to stop the protest. They weren't paid, just like this lady is complaining in Hausa that since they were invited, they've not given them water, no food, even the 5,000 they promised them, they haven't paid them the money. It's very obvious that these people were motivated by money, otherwise they wouldn't be complaining that they weren't paid for the no protest. That's why the government has weaponized poverty. Yes, they know that people are poor, they dangle money to their faces, they will do what they tell them to do. Now, they are not even dangling the money in their faces, they are scamming them or forcing them to do it on credit. Like it happened during the elections, that was in Ikorodu or somewhere around Lagos. They campaigned and told them to come out and vote for them, that they will be paid. The people trooped out and voted for them on credit. They were never paid that money they promised them till today. So the lessons here are simple. If you truly need that money, when you are offered that money, take that money and go and do what they tell you to do. At the end of the day, do not forget to troop out en masse on the D-Day to demand for good governance, because that's what counts. All these 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, they can't even last you for 1 week in today's Nigeria. That's reality. How much is a bag of rice, a bag of beans, a pint of garri? Many food items in the market are beyond reach. For the first time in Nigeria's history, a tuber of yam is going for up to 10,000 naira. How can that be when we have millions of hectares of arable land in Nigeria that can be cultivated? But because of banditry and terrorism, many farmers can no longer go to their farms to be productive so as to boost food production like it used to be. You see, Nigerians need to believe in the powers they have. They need to use the power wisely, because the threat of protest alone have made Nigerian politicians to start doing things a little bit the correct way. All the money they are doling out today, not that it is the wise way to do it, but at least it wouldn't have happened if Nigerians didn't threaten to go on massive protest. So you can imagine The possibilities are endless. What Nigerians can achieve when they troop out en masse to protest for good governance. Like many have been demanding, what are the demands of the protesters? That if they don't have demands, that it will be fruitless going on a protest. Are they asking for Tinubu to resign? Now, let's bring you some of the demands by many groups who are spearheading this protest. Number one demand is a return to the old price of petrol, which was around 200 naira before the current administration came to power. This is a reasonable demand because we all know that all the problems can be linked to the increase of the petrol price by the current administration. Petrol is the single most important energy source that drives Nigerian economy. Without petrol, Nigeria's economy will simply collapse because apart from transportation, people still need petrol in Nigeria to power businesses, SMEs, even homes. This is simply because the power generation, the national grid, is simply not sufficient to supply the energy needs of Nigerians. People who do ordinary office jobs, they still depend on petrol to power their generators in order to power their equipment, whether computers or other office equipment. Is it people who are into small-scale manufacturing? They still depend on power generators, which can only be powered by petrol or diesel. So you can understand how petrol is very important in Nigeria's economy. Now to transportation, which is mostly owned by the private sector, unlike in Western world, Europe, Asia, where it is owned by the government. They do anything they want. There is no regulation. Whenever there's increase in petrol price, even if it's just 5 naira that was added to the petrol price, they will use the opportunity to increase the transport fares to unimaginable levels that are not commensurate to the increase in petrol. So this contributes to the high cost of living. We have a serious problem in Nigeria, unlike other major cities in the world where they have mass transit systems. There are no trams, maybe except Lagos, that just commissioned 2 lines. Also in Abuja, there's 1 line that is operational. In most major cities, we don't have high-capacity buses or double-decker buses that can carry upwards of 200 persons, so as to reduce the cost of transportation. And because public transport is run by mostly private individuals, there's no regulation that requires them to use a high-capacity bus to run. That's why there are mostly minivans that can carry maybe about 14 or 16 passengers at a time. So all these contribute to why transport fares are expensive, because the operators don't take advantage of economics of scale. Another major demand is a reversal of the naira devaluation, which effectively means fixing the exchange rate. Unlike what is obtainable right now where people place bids, at the end of the day they sell to the highest bidder, which keeps pushing the exchange rate. Right now it is about 1,600 naira to $1. An import-dependent economy like Nigeria cannot support this kind of exchange rate because it hurts the consumer. Consider the fact that we don't manufacture majority of the goods that we consume, we import them. So when the exchange rate is too high, the consumer pays the price. All these contribute to why there is high cost of living. Actually, the government put the cart before the horse. They should have made sure that all the essentials required for local manufacturing are there 100%. That there is 24-hour power supply that is able to support manufacturers. That all the raw materials they need to manufacture products are available locally. That mining companies are already invested mining these raw materials to supply manufacturers who will now use that to manufacture finished goods that will be sold locally in the market and also exported to foreign countries. If they did all this, created all the incentives for local manufacturing to thrive, then they would have just adjusted the exchange rate, pushed it upwards even up to 2,000 naira to $1. This is to simply discourage imports. Because when you look at the exchange rate as an importer, you say, how much am I going to make in profit when I exchange naira for this amount? There's no way the price of the imported products will be able to compete with locally manufactured ones. Look at the example of South Korea, the example of Vietnam, many Asian tigers, even China. So when you look at the actions of the government, you will see that they were simply motivated by the need to earn more money and taxes rather than grow the local economy. Now, the next major demand, which majority of the groups that are supporting the protesters unanimously agree to, is the scrapping of the Senate. Look at this latest report. The National Assembly received 172 billion naira in allocation the last 6 months alone. This amount is more than what the Ministries of Transportation, Lands, Power, Communication, Water Resources, what they received combined. This amount is more than that. So you can understand that the National Assembly is a huge leech on Nigeria's resources. That's why many people unanimously agree that the Senate needs to be scrapped. They did this in Senegal, they scrapped their Senate. They are still a functional democracy, so Nigeria should do the same. They should cut off the excesses of these politicians. How can people that are less than 500 elected members of the National Assembly are just 360 at the lower house and 109 at the upper house? So they are not even up to 500 persons, but their budget this year alone is 300 and something billion naira. What are they doing with all this? And after scrapping the Senate, they need to abolish constituency projects for the Federal House of Rep members. We are practicing a presidential system of government, not a parliamentary one. Even in a parliamentary one, they never pay parliamentarians cash to go and execute constituency projects. It is absurd that they practice this in Nigeria. The work of a parliamentarian or federal representative is to fight for his constituency to make sure that projects that will be built in his constituency are included in the current budget. That's the job of a representative or a parliamentarian, not to receive money, cash, to go and execute the project in his constituency by himself. No, this should be stopped. It's a huge avenue of wastage and corruption because they never account for the projects they executed. No one says, where did you execute this one? How much is the worth of the project? Who handled this? Who did this? Who did that? They never account for the money. They consider all the money they receive as their salaries and allowances. So you can see there are many demands. These are just the major ones. There are others who are saying that the number of SSAs, that's special advisors to elected members, should be drastically reduced. In fact, that it should be fixed in the constitution, whether they agree to 5 persons alone or maybe 3 for certain elected members. There's also the reform of INEC, that they must make it mandatory to transmit results live on election day. That's making use of the IREV, which was effectively created to be used in the last election, but at the end of the day, they shut it down. The court allowed everything. They turned everything upside down, saying that it was never intended to be used in such a manner. Despite the fact that INEC trained their staff members on the use of IREV and the BVAS machines, everything that is supposed to make sure that election results are scanned, uploaded for confirmation. So all these are demands made by Nigerians which are reasonable for any country that truly wants to grow and transition from a third world country to a first world one. They must implement these kind of changes to cut excesses and corruption. Thanks for watching.